officially till 31st Jan, I'm allowed to use Happy New Year. So this is my last Happy New Year. Hope we can, all collaborate and work together in 2025 and beyond, and see use technology to actually help ourselves make our life in finance a little bit better. Oh, a few familiar faces as well. Very good. Cool. So how to power up your FP&A function with Power BI? A little bit about myself. I am Tejas Parekh. I am the founder, owner, director of FPA, Akshat Business Consulting Limited. We are basically a FP&A transformation business. I have an MBA as well as I'm a CIMA qualified chartered as well. Recently got my FCMA as well. Tim, congratulations to you as well on getting your FCMA. I'm a qualified consultant, Anaplan modeler, as well as a Power BI, Microsoft certified Power BI analyst as well. Where I'm coming from, this is important because this hopefully gives you context of where this presentation comes from. So I have spent 5 years plus at GE Healthcare. I've spent a couple of years at Vodafone, a couple of years at Nielsen, delivering centers of excellence, delivering basically and building analytical tools, planning cycles and such like. So I have been in hardcore FP&A for almost 15 years of my career before moving into basically contracting and consulting. So what I'm about to share is based on my experience in industry and working with clients as well. Over past 6 years odd, we've worked with businesses like Dixon Carphone, like Xerox, like Unilever, like Premier Inn and such like, so that where we've been able to deliver real value with Power BI, with redesigning of Power BI, with Anaplan implementation. Again, we are going to walk through the case study of lawyers on demand today as well. So stuff like that. So again, how to make FP&A a strategic finance function, which is what it is meant to be. That's the purpose of again today's webinar as well. So who is this webinar for? Obviously, it is for finance professionals, business owners, decision makers, data analysts, or anybody interested in any sort of analysis, financial and actually I would say non-financial as well. What is the agenda? Why do you need to go beyond Excel? I mean, I know Excel has been the tool of choice for many, many years for finance professionals. So why go beyond Excel? I am going to assume that the team today, the viewers today are not aware of what Power BI is at all. I know quite a few people on this call right now are actually aware of what Power BI is, but for the purpose of this presentation, I'm going to work as if you are not aware of Power BI, and I'm going to take it from there so that we can start from ground up essentially. So what and why about Power BI? Just a very quick overview, and then is when as you can see, the large chunk of the agenda is basically spending time in the demo environment, where I'll be talking about different forms of Power BI, of how even within Power BI you can move from basic dashboarding to actually a full-on FP&A solution within Power BI. So key limitations of Excel. I mean, first of all, one thing which I don't like personally about Excel is the manual effort involved, because there is very little, if any, automation. I have seen a few people use Power Query within Excel as well to create some amount of automation. But then the other killer within Excel is scalability, because Excel does not allow for multiple people to work within the same Excel book at the same time. I know Microsoft tries to say that yes, there can be multi-user within Excel, but I have seen it far too many times crash. So I don't think it allows for collaboration. It actually creates silos. So from a perspective of, it is a fantastic tool for an individual performer, but any process or any structure around working together and collaboration, I don't really think it works very, very well. 90% of the time, the reports that you get in Excel, in basically Excel, are out of date because they will be after working day 3 or working day 5 or working day 7 of basically of the month end. And I think Tim asked a very good question earlier for me, and I'm going to cover that during this process of how Power BI can help with that. There is no standardization of process. Now, this is the heart of the pain which I feel FP&A professionals face, because there is no scalability, because basically it is manually done by people individually. At a company level or at a business level, there is no standardization of how chart of accounts are classified or how cost centers are classified or how product codes or SKUs are classified. So everybody has their own little version of how marketing classifies products versus how sales classifies products, how customer service classifies products, for example, right? I've seen that myself. I mean, GL accounts, is this salaries or is this basically, other staff costs, things like that. There is there is room for left out for people to basically make their own interpretation, and that in Excel is a killer, because then you spend a lot of time doing reconciliation of my number versus your number, and really there should not be my number versus your number. The business has one number. A single source of truth should be the way forward. Plus, basically it lacks the ability to do basically scenario planning and rolling forecast in a collaborative manner. So yes, as an individual I could sit in an Excel book and make fantastic models. I have made some myself as well, and I'm very proud of them still, but I don't think they allowed for collaboration as much as I would have liked it to. So that is where 6 years back again I started getting into Power BI and technology stack, and I have to say I have not looked back since. So yes, Excel has its place. I think even today I use Excel. Most of the people who have worked with me will know, when I have to brainstorm something or look at something from a blank. Again, the phrase I use is blank Excel book perspective of, let's think about what do we want to achieve. Yes, at that point in time, Excel is a very good tool, but building a process in Excel or a whole board deck within Excel, management accounts within Excel, consolidation processes within Excel is not sustainable. So Power BI is where the automation journey within finance can start, because first thing, as finance professionals, I always get asked, Tejas, what is your cost? I don't want to invest in very costly technology. Power BI is what? $10 per user per month. Okay, most offices spend more than that on a coffee per head in an office. So realistically, from a cost perspective, definitely Power BI is definitely very, very cost efficient, and definitely return on investment is very high with Power BI. So what is Power BI? Power BI is a basically cloud-based app and a cloud-based service which helps organizations collate all their data and manage and analyze in a user-friendly manner. You can customize it for each organization as much as you like. It is pretty much a combination of Access database, Excel ability, as well as PowerPoint. So what you can do in all three of them, you can do all of that in Power BI and then a lot more as well. So from that perspective, it's a fantastic tool. Okay, I'm assuming most people have at least heard about Power BI, right? And you know what I'm talking about. By show of hands or something, just if you can give me an indication of, have you heard about Power BI? At least you know what I'm talking about. Yes, no, yes. Dishant is saying yes. Obviously, Dishant, you know, yes, yes, yes. So I've got a few people saying yes. Okay, fair enough. So people are, yes, please use the chat, please use Q&A. We will definitely answer all the questions as you come along. Perfect. So there you go. So most people have heard about Power BI, you know what I'm talking about. So Gartner, again, this is 6 years. Actually, I need to update this. 8 to 9 years in a row, Power BI has been classified as best in class business intelligence solution out there. Okay, so respectfully, even I have gone into businesses and taken Tableau and stuff out and put in Power BI myself, because I'm like, yeah, just use something which really works. So Power BI definitely is best in class from a Gartner standpoint. It has improved team effort, uplifted operating income by 2.5%, according to a research done by Forrester on power use of Power BI. So imagine, like, if you could improve your business margin just by using Power BI. Now, how fantastic would that be, right? I mean, that I think is quite unique. And again, I will share with you examples of where I've seen stuff like that. The reason why you can do that is not just because that a technology can create more revenue. The technology cannot create more revenue. But what Power BI is helping you do is understand your data and understand your business a lot better. And that's where it helps you make better decisions and performance management using Power BI. Reduces time for reconciliation. Exactly. Because all your SKUs have a same standard classification of product lines, right? All your GL accounts are standardized in classification and things like that, and therefore it makes life a lot more easier. Why do finance teams need Power BI? It is definitely efficient in modeling. Data integration will becomes a lot easier, and can be real time or at least close to real time. So again, the use case which I'm going to talk, two use cases that I'm going to cover today. One of them is basically where you refresh Power BI every 2 hours during the month-end cycle, and the difference that it makes in your efficiency even during month-end. Now, Power BI traditionally is considered a dashboarding solution. So, Tejas, how does it help in month end? But imagine once as you are closing your books, you're doing your journal entries, you're posting your accruals and prepayments, within an hour or two, you know what your P&L looks like. You start identifying gaps. You start looking at your GL accounts by department, by cost center, or by legal entity. And therefore, you can actually fix if you have got misposted entries or miscoded entries. Tim, to use your words, right? To correct the miscoding before you close the accounting system. Okay, and I have got a recommendation on my LinkedIn profile. Please go and check it out, Tim, later. Where the gentleman has Alex from basically Cinemedia has clearly said that the combination of basically Microsoft Dynamics and then reports in Power BI meant that they were able to look at the numbers before they closed the books. So whatever miscoding, misbooking, or missed accruals, or missing transfers to prepayments and things like that were happening were prevented in advance before the books in Microsoft Dynamics were closed. And that means they were able to correct it before the fact. Means the off-book adjustments were minimized as much as possible. So again, being a chartered myself, I hate off-book adjustments, and therefore we should definitely try and minimize them as much as possible. And I'm sure a lot of, at least I know, I can see of quite a few charters in the room as well. So you know what I'm talking about. Like off-book adjustments are a bit questionable from an audit standpoint. Whereas if you can fix it with the using the visibility in Power BI in advance before you close your books, that's the best case scenario. I've got a couple of more ideas to solve that problem as well, which I'll be sharing in the demo environment once we get there. So how does Power BI work? It looks a bit confusing, I realize that, so I'm going to break this up into very simple pieces. The way to look at Power BI is what is the reporting, performance management, and KPIs you want. That is covered in this section. You can have it in a Power BI app on your phone. You can have Power BI services on basically on a web browser, as well as you can have an Excel connected to Power BI if you really choose to. So, but this is something I only recommend as a Power Pivot table for doing quick and dirty analytics rather than a reporting solution out of it. Uh, Once you know what output you want, you figure out where the data lies. Is it in my ERP? Is it my CRM? Is it my headcount data I'm looking for? Is it in in somebody's Excel books? Preferably not, but figure that out and then bring those data sources into a Power BI desktop, where you can do the queries, you do the modeling, and you create the reports, which you publish into Power BI services, and where you can then start engaging with your data. So the way I would always look at it is first figure out what your output should look like, where your data lies to create that output, and do the processing to convert that data into insights. That's the magic of Power BI, converting data into insights. Okay. Before I go into the demo environment, basically, one of the offers I'm making in today's webinar and as a part of today's offering is that last 3 to 4 clients that we've had, they've all benefited from basically a proof of concept, which they have then taken to their organization and shown the benefits that Power BI can deliver. So I am offering basically first 5 people who book a strategic call with me, that we will do basically a 1 or 2 page basic Power BI report for you for free, which you can then take to your organization to show proof of concept, if that helps you sell the usage of Power BI within your organization, if that is what you are looking for. But this is basic Power BI without aim plan, because aim plan definitely needs licenses separately. So that is offer in as a part of today's webinar, that first 5 people booking a strategic call with me to discuss, what your current Power BI landscape or looks like, or if you're looking to implement Power BI, how would you go about doing it in your organization? Any such conversation. The strategic call is completely free of cost, no obligation. Then we will look at your concept and help you build something which you can sell to your within your organizations for free. So now that we've done that, let's go into the demo environment because this is where I wanted to go ASAP. Okay, so this is Power BI services. The first thing I would like to show you is this. It's laid out from left to right, so please read it from left to right. You can see there is data in reference data in Excel, reference data in Excel. There is reference data in a SharePoint. Okay, you could have your ERP there. You could have your data warehouse there. You could have your CRM there. You could have a n number of things on the left hand side, literally n number of things, and they all just work. Okay, so you could bring the data from all of those places. And in fact, I've got a Power BI instance open here. So for anybody who has no idea what Power BI looks like, there is something called Power BI Desktop. It is a free app you can download from the Microsoft website. When you go in there, there is something called Get Data. You don't need to be a Power BI expert. I think a couple of people were asking me about the courses for Power BI as well. So when I go and get data, I just wanted to show you. You can look at the number of connections that Power BI has. Okay. By nature, I think Power BI has got around 200 or 300 connections, which is direct connections to said applications. So like Oracle, I think it's got Oracle Data Warehouse. SAP, it has got SAP for HANA connection. It has got what else? Dynamics, obviously, because it's a Microsoft product, so it's got direct connection to all versions of Dynamics, including Business Central, essentially on-premise and on cloud. Okay, but what is also more interesting is the fact that you can connect to data NetSuite. That's a good question. I'm not looked. I'm not too sure. No, not NetSuite, but the way, again, hold that thought. Okay, I agree with the question. The question is very, very valid. I'll come back to that one. The way I would recommend this is basically look at databases. Okay, it connects to my SQL database, SQL servers, to basically Snowflake instances, all your AWS, Azure, all your major data warehouses. And why is that important? Because there's a slide in the second half of this after the demo, which I will be sharing with you. Yes, Power BI can connect to even Dynamics directly, but I would not recommend them to do that as best practice. And having done this for last 6 years, trust me when I'm saying this, it is not best practice to connect your Power BI directly to your data systems. It is best practice if you go via a data warehouse. And I will explain myself after the demo. When we go back to the PowerPoint, I will explain myself why, because I will visually show you why it makes more sense. So why I like Power BI a lot more, again, Microsoft Fabric. So again, for a couple of medium-sized clients who didn't want to go Azure and AWS, we have helped them even implement Microsoft Fabric and brought the data into Power BI. Because the advantage is once you have your data in a data warehouse, you own your data. You think your data in your Dynamics or your Business Central or your SAP, you own it. No, you don't. The day you switch from that provider to anybody else, they will make it very, very difficult for you to access that data. Whereas bringing that data into a data warehouse means now you really own it because it's your data warehouse. Okay, so therefore, even NetSuite or NetSuite, Navision, Sage 100 or whatever, all of those things, it is better to use at least Fabric, which is very, very cost efficient, to bring that data there and park it there and then use it for Power BI or for any other purpose you need, because that way, say you switch from your one ERP to another, you will not lose your data. Otherwise, you will end up losing your data. Different data sources, but if you follow Tejas's best advice, then bring your data sources into a data warehouse and then bring it into Power BI. Bring your financial data, your CRM data, your headcount data, your customer data, if you have it somewhere else in terms of bookings and things like that, project data, All of that can be brought into data warehouses and then brought into Power BI for not only P&L balance sheet cash flow, but for KPI reporting, for basically, metric measurement and things like that, the whole thing. So there is multiple advantages of doing a structure like that. Okay, so I've answered the NetSuite question. Anything else anybody would like to ask, or should I just continue? Because I will keep talking otherwise. Anybody, any questions, or are we all good? Okay, I am assuming we are all good. So sources, bring it into the model and then create reports. We have made some standard reports. So first one I would like to show is this one, which is basically a standard textbook finance people's favorite report of income tax balance, income statement balance sheet, cash flow, age, debtors, and revenue. Now, compared to most of your Excel reports, you will notice this looks a lot better. Okay, come on, there we go. So again, so you have got your waterfall charts, your trend analysis, things like that, all works on its own. There's a small circle here. There you go. Your PNL is ready. I can look at prior year. I can look at prior, 2018. I can look at anything. Again, this will be broken down by month if I wanted. For a couple of customers, we've done it at week level if they wanted it at week level. So that is all the art of the possible, essentially. Okay. Again, balance sheet can also obviously be produced here. You can open to GL account level if you like. Your balance sheet ratios are automatically calculated. You can have visuals. You can have cash flow. So first of all, this report, the way I'm presenting this right now, the thought process, and I'll give you the logic behind it. The logic behind this particular report is replacing your current Excel focused reporting and packs into something which is a bit more visual, something which is more engaging for your audience, which are people from non-finance backgrounds, and they actually understand a little bit more of what you are showing them. And again, at this minute, this table also is very, very numeric. I've got the next one in a bit more interactive as well. So at least this is the first step away from your technical Excel driven dashboarding to something which is a bit more visual. Top 5 customers, bottom 5 customers, top 5 sales. For one of our customers, they were very happy because we implemented, for example, top 5 sales reps, but bottom 5 sales reps, right? We implemented top 5 wins of the month, but then we also created a visual for them to look at top 5 basically by value product, basically contracts coming to an end in the following month. So they had long-term contracts with the customers. So now they were able to see over next 3 months which are the biggest customers which are going to finish in their contract cycle. Immediately now their sales team can go and call them up and start to renegotiate those contracts and things like that in a much more proactive manner rather than waiting for the contract to pass and then try to follow up and stuff like that. So this is where it becomes a lot more intuitive because you are not spending time manipulating the data. You are spending much, much more time consuming the data. Okay. Does this look interesting at all, or from a dashboarding perspective, or not really? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Again, obviously, this can be completely customized based on what works for you guys and your logos. Obviously, we have used our logos. This can be your business colors. This can be your branding, however your business likes it. So first is, yes, you can replace your PowerPoint and your Excel with basically Power BI. Now I'm going to show something which I think I really enjoyed making this one. This is basically some amount of modeling in Power BI. Okay. So now there are basically at entry level, there are like say 5 employees, there are junior 7 employees, there are mid-level employees, and there are senior employees. Okay. You've got their salaries here. Okay. I am at the end of the year, I'm trying to model out, okay, what increment do I give people and what will be the effect overall for my business? Okay, it's not like you can only do that in Excel. You can do that in Power BI as well. And this actually we made with somebody who is working in HR and she actually used it in her business. So now you can say 953 and 1, 953 and 1. Overall, that means the business cost has gone up by 2.8% at 35 million, essentially. Think that way. How many seconds did it take me to do this? Okay, you can this now can be done on multiple use cases. It can be used for your price volume modeling. If you're trying to do pricing models for your business, right, by different channels or by different, basically, different product lines, different segments. It can be used for price volume segments. It can be used for, obviously, in this case, it can be used for depreciation. It can be used for any modeling that you're doing to assume growth rates, assume reduction. For the minute, we have got only basically zero, like 1 to, I think, 92 or 100%, right? But you could even have negative. So you could have, say, what happened if my quantity consumed went down by 2%, but my price goes up by 5%? What is the overall impact in sales? It's stuff like that. You could even build dashboards like this for your pricing team to go and be able to play with that on their own. So that's something to consider as well. And they are not messing anything up. Instead of giving them an Excel book, you give them something like this to go and play around with, which then basically you can use that output if you wanted as well. But that's the other magic with Power BI in terms of, yes, you can create modeling environment. Again, I can type numbers in there as well, right? Uh, which you can do within Power BI in terms of certain amount of modeling. Third use case which I wanted to talk to you about is this is another dashboard which we made for P&L and then a bit more graphics around it. This is by month. Okay, so you can change, I don't know, I want to look at, March. And again, things like this I think are very helpful because I've had a couple of experiences where the senior leadership or the executive team is consistently asking finance, oh, but what was our T&E last year? What was our, salaries last year and things like that. All of that they can self-serve themselves because here you can see your operating expense, for example, by department and then by cost type. So this is again standardization of GL account classification across the business. Everybody classifies labor expense as the same, commissions as the same thing, and people can basically self-serve themselves. They can find answers to whatever questions they want. Plus, obviously, Power BI allows for cross filtering. So, for example, when I filter on manufacturing 19555, I now know what is the labor cost and everything for that particular use case. One of the limitations of Power BI, though, is that you can't input stuff generally in Power BI environment. As you can see, I have brought data from my Excel and my data sources into a dashboard. I am interacting with it, but I'm not being able to put data in. We've found a couple of ways to get around that. Implan obviously is a bigger solution, but there is another solution around this. Oh, come on. I tested this yesterday. Yes, thank God. Otherwise, I would be left a bit red faced. So there we go. Okay, so here you see I have put in a comment here, Tejas update. Now I can edit that comment, or I can basically, so there is Tejas's update. For example, I have said for the revenue line for the month of May for 2006 for the MTD view, which is that one, I have put in a comment. I'm going to change that comment to trial Jan 2025 webinar. Okay, I said, okay. What has now happened is this comment has now gone into a SharePoint grid, which is here. Okay, and now if I refresh this, which will take, oh, come on, don't do this to me. There you go. Okay, please tell me this is going to work, because I did try this yesterday and it didn't work for me. Come on. Why is this feeling? Far away, stuff like that as well happens. Data is personal mode, it will be offline. Because Sudarshan is offline. Damn it, this is not going to work right now. Okay, no problem. But yes, this can be, you can put in comments like that. And this is where what I was talking to you about, Tim, where if you wanted to create bookings, so combining your actuals with basically, off-book adjustments, instead of what we have done here in terms of, we have used revenue, month, year, and MTD. You could even use GL account and cost center and talk about what bookings you wanted to correct in a structured manner. Therefore, the advantage you would then get is this gets documented on a SharePoint folder and then comes back into Power BI. So A, people don't have to keep a track in Excel book, and B, then the SharePoint has got a whole grid of all your off-book adjustments by month, by GL account, by cost center, uh, by legal entity, all the dimensions you need. And therefore, at the end of the year or end of the quarter, whenever you're doing an audit, you have all your off-book adjustments not in somebody's Excel book, but actually on a SharePoint grid, which is much more easily accessible and auditable by auditors as well. So first, Tim, to answer your question, which we were discussing earlier, is yes, using Power BI because you can refresh and look at your report as you are going through the closing cycle. You can prevent miscoding. So again, prevention, I think, is the best cure. If miscoding happens, you can use something like that to create off-book adjustments on a SharePoint folder, which means that you can then keep a record of it and keep track of it on an ongoing basis, which means it is much more auditable around it. And then the third item is going to be within our aim plan demo environment. So before I start with aim plan, up to now, what we were doing is within the Power BI environment and the Power Apps environment, which is completely Microsoft native. Anybody has any questions, comments, thoughts around it? Anything you would like to ask? No, you can unmute yourself. Everybody can unmute themselves if they want to ask questions, or you can, if you're shy, you can type in the questions. Completely fine. Otherwise, I'm going to go through aim plan essentially. Anybody? No? Are we good? Can you apply validation to off-book adjustments? Example, balanced. Yes, you can apply of validations in terms of basically you can review the grid and make sure that it totals up to 0. If it totals up to 0, then you are balanced. Otherwise, you're not balanced, right? I'm assuming that's what you mean, Steve, right? Because your off-book adjustment means you're taking the cost away from one cost center or one GL account and putting it like what? If you can then, if you clarify the question a little bit more, then I'm happy to clarify the answer. You can unmute yourself, Steve. Where are you? Sorry, let me find you. There you are.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, Tejas, what I was going to say is like business rules. You can hear me, yeah?
That is why I cannot hear you. I am going to put you on speaker. Hello, check 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me, Steve?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
I can now hear you perfectly. Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Can you clarify that comment a little bit more?
Yeah, it was more like, can you apply business rules? So to ensure like sort of a tiering of validation to ensure that, typically you're going to have a fairly robust structure around your ledger, your books. Yeah. And sometimes the downfall of off books entries is people discard that. So you lose feels it should be mandatory, or people just take a very basic aggregation, say, is it flat by legal entity and currency? That's enough. Yeah. But so you kind of degrade the standard. Can you apply a rule within Power BI, so unless it conforms to those business rules, it doesn't get ingested and it forces the onus back on people to do it right before they present it?
Yes, the short answer is yes, but not in Power BI. So remember, this what I've got here is actually not Power BI, it is Power Apps. So in Power Apps, we could make certain fields compulsory that you have to provide this and this information, and in fact make it a drop down so they can't misspell it, they can't be creative about it, and they have to conform to exactly the same GL account coding or your cost center coding or legal entity coding that you've had in the previous. So yes, you can create better quality entry even in your off-book adjustment using Power Apps connected to Power BI and validation rules within Power Apps. So yes, the shortest answer to that is yes, within Power Apps as well as in within aim plan.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Anybody else? No. Cool. So what is basically aim plan? So aim plan now takes your Power BI and Power Apps now to a completely different level because you can not only do inputs within there, you can do really advanced modeling within within Power BI with aim plan added on. So what is aim plan is essentially an add-on within Power BI. So you start with your Power BI and then you add aim plan into it to make it more dynamic. Normal aim plan demo, I will be frank, is an hour by itself just talking about aim plan. I have got roughly 10 minutes to do that. So I am not going to be able to do justice to aim plan, but I am going to try my level best to give you a good flavor of the art of the possible. Okay. So first thing, when you make a basically PNL within aim plan, the first advantage you get is you can see here, I am assuming people can see my screen. Uh, Revenue is breaking down by, for example, cost centers over here. But OpEx is breaking down by cost categories. And then I've got a gross margin there, and then I've got some other stuff over here. So I can mix and match stuff the way I want it to be, because again, you cannot always break up your P&L by just GL accounts, right? Your revenue is generally broken down by cost centers or by product names and things like that, whereas your OpEx is always broken down by cost nature. So you can have that kind of a dynamic P&L which you need. Plus, your vertical summaries can be by cost center. Because I selected two cost centers, you can see the two cost centers there. If I select three cost centers, it will have three cost centers on the right. So there you go. See. So now I've got three cost centers on the right. So it's things like that. So that's your reporting becomes a lot more dynamic and a lot more interactive. Plus, you can see, because this is done via Dynamics and via the data warehouse. First is, if I take I want to take a cost which will have something around it, because salaries and others has got an invoice around it. Okay, so what is this? Salaries and others, right? So let me see if I can pick one which has got an invoice in it. So this 6300, 6307, 6307, I showed that in Power BI is possible as well. But here what you are getting then along with it is you can have an invoice connected within Power BI. So now I am looking at basically the physical invoice attached to that line item level detail. I don't have to go to my Dynamics or to my SAP or my Oracle and find that invoice. I can see that within the Power BI environment. Obviously, like what I did in Power Apps, I can write comments over here. So this comment is for the cost center of Stockholm for scenario of budget version 1. I'm going to say status test, right? And I'm going to say save it. Okay, so now it is saved it. So if I take Stockholm off, I will lose that comment. Okay. Oops, Alliance, this comment is there. But now when I bring it back on, for example, hopefully it comes back. There you go, Tejas test. If I change my scenario, again, I will lose the comment, but then when I bring the original scenario back. So the point being, for that scenario, for that month or that year, for that legal entity, extra, etc., you can have specific comments. Yes, Tim, go right ahead, please. You raise your hands. You can unmute yourself.
Right, sorry, just figuring out how to do it. So did you say you can actually see the invoice in Power BI?
Yes, with aim plan. I just
Within
opened
plan.
one.
Yeah. So how does that do that? Is that just like a dynamic link to the archiving system or document system? It doesn't maintain a copy or anything like that, does it?
Aimplan is basically working off a SQL server. So the Aimplan provides their own SQL, their own Azure server, or they can use your Azure server if you have one. The way it can be designed is your invoices can be then stored onto that server, either Aimplan server or your own server, and be brought in here. Which means that during month-end cycle time, when you're trying to rush through your stuff, you can look at your invoices in real time as it is going along. And all of that can be automated. So nobody has to physically go and save that. As long as you're scanning your invoices into your ERP.
So I guess I'm just jumping ahead here. So that's for actuals and such, like going back to the source. Can you do that to source documents from the budget side of things as well?
You are now jumping ahead. So I've not started the budget conversation yet. No problem. No problem. Yeah. So Again, this is all I'm covering still is actuals, right? This is the fun you can have with actuals. You can go to your invoice level detail. You can have you can see your result per cost center, net profit per site. You can have a lot of KPI reporting stuff like that, which takes your power of Power BI and enhances it further to make it a lot more interactive for you. Okay, because I have only 5 more minutes, I'm going to try and see if I can do the OPEX forecast. Yes. So this is where you do a OPEX forecast, right? So this is my last year's cost. First thing is, for example, next year's cost, I want it to be 8,000 for the full year. You can see my numbers have been ratio allocated as per last year automatically. I could do that at not only line item level, I can do that at the total bottom level. The total year is 128, blah, blah, blah. I don't want that. I want it to be 120. Have I got enough zeros there? No, I've not got enough zeros there. But as you can, I've definitely not got enough zeros there. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got too many now. 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this is enough right number of zeros. Anyway, so you can see this can literally ratio allocated as per prior year for you, and you can start doing forecast. To answer Tim's question, Tim, you can then start making comment at individual cell level if you choose to. I can, for example, make this 8,000 and then it says not 80,000, 8,000. Now, if I want to lock this and I say basically lock these cells and then make this 8,500, you will see the first 4 cells have not changed, but the rest of the cells have changed to make it 8,500. So you can do a lot of dynamic stuff like that within Power BI to do some amount of forecasting for that particular scenario. I believe this is the sim. So I'm going to use that. It's a blank sim. Oh, which is the blank? This is the blank sim. So you can even start with a blank simulation where you can tell Power BI take last 3 months average. It'll take last 3 years average and give you a forecast last year's exact forecast for next year, or tell AI to look at the trend for past few years and give me a forecast on its own. So, you can create your forecast at a click of a button and then adjust based on the facts that you know about the business. So there is some amount of forecasting ability in here as well. And yes, you can make comments on cell level, at line level, and obviously add at overall cost center level if you wanted to. So you can have comments at all the 3 levels. Is that what you were talking about, Tim, or were you talking about something more specific?
Sorry, just gone on mute again. Yeah, I was actually wondering if there's any way of loading your budget models so you can actually clicking on cells actually take you back to the budget model and see what assumptions were lying behind each figure, etc.
Okay. So in that case, Tim, what you're talking about is your forecasting is done elsewhere and you're just bringing the output from there and then want to see the drivers which have created that output. That is possible in native Power BI itself. This, what I am talking about, is instead of building your budget elsewhere, you can build your budget within Power BI. So one of the things I would definitely wanted to show in this call before I open it up for a lot more questions. Where is my headcount employee? I think it is this one. Is it this one or no? It is headcount. Too many tabs in here, man. Headcount. Where is my? No, this one. Revenue, sales, volume, price. Headcount plan. This is the one I wanted to show. Here, what you will see is you can even do your headcount planning within Power BI. So these are your heads. Again, as finance people, we all know what the 11112 is. So the half, 111. These are your standard salaries. These are all in Swedish krona. So don't worry why the numbers are so high. And therefore, then you get an output. For example, now if I take this particular one, take Adam. So Adam is 1 in July and therefore his salary 39,200. I have got 39,200 there. Okay. If I made him 0 year and I save that, okay, this still remains, but then here it should be, it's becoming 0. It's going there. Go on, go on. There you go. There you go. So July has now become 0. For example, now, so this is basically your headcount model can be done like this. Now think if you are doing your revenue modeling somewhere else, This could very well be, for example, your products, quantity, price, revenue. Think that way. And again, this is filtered on a cost center. So this could be your channel, products, price, quantity, and therefore revenue. And then you change the channel, you do quantity, price, volume for each channel. So the point why I'm showing you this out here is that you can actually do your entire financial modeling for at least small to medium sized organizations within Power BI itself. Instead of doing it in Excel, at least this is better because this is more collaborative. And this again, who has access to what cost centers or what channels or what product lines can all be security gated for you as a business of how you would like it to be. Okay, and therefore you can restrict access, give a more access, or whatever that needs to be. And again, review is also possible within Power BI. As you can see, for example, if I increase somebody's salary, I'm just going to make this a silly number so that you will see, and then I save this. Okay, suddenly the cost by month will spike up and things like that. There you go. So again, because you're doing this all modeling in real time, you can actually start testing whether your KPIs will make sense if you put this as a budget submission. And you can have this various scenarios. So again, 1 plus 11, 2 plus 10, all your typical scenarios, all can be done via AIM plan and do the modeling within AIM plan itself. That is essentially the key ingredients, I think, from a AIM plan perspective. Plus, the conversation that Tim I was again having with you off the track, you will find that there you go. You will find more and more of my name coming up because I have been making changes. So it keeps tracking all the changes I'm making. So not only can you do your budgeting within AIM plan, it tracks who has made what change to what scenario on an ongoing basis, which just means that you are in control of your budget, and who has made a silly submission. So, no, okay, this one obviously you will go to Tejas and say, Tejas, have you lost your mind? Why has somebody got a 1.5 million salary in 1 month? Right? It makes it much more easier to have those kind of conversations. So, again, this is an example of a price volume. I used people to give you price volume as well as headcount modeling. Another key thing yes, Steve, sorry, go right ahead.
Yeah, one question I had off the back of that was, can you link different, if you like, different parts of your model? So to your point, headcount. So say if they were front office people, then you've got an expectation about how much they generate. If you defer, someone said a top level sales, and then it will reflect the adjustment. Your top level revenue projection comes down because you've deferred hiring of the relevant salespeople to support that.
Yeah, so we are doing exactly that for a particular customer who is a care home, and what we are doing for them is based on their occupancy assumption. Not only their occupancy is driving their revenue, their occupancy is driving their headcount of support worker, senior support worker, team leader, and basically floor manager, for example. And therefore it is driving their cost. They are basically cost as well. That's what you're talking about, right? That's the kind of scenario you're referring to.
Yeah, something like that. It could go in either direction. Either you're saying the headcount drives
Exactly.
the revenue, or in that case, it's how much headcount do you need to support the occupancy and the associated revenue. Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Exactly. And more importantly, you create. So what I'm about to touch base on is an account hierarchy. So you can have your global model assumptions. So this particular business has an assumption of if there are 5 occupied beds, then we need 3, for example, support workers. We need 1 senior support worker. So that model has been designed by them. They put it into AIM plan. So that what they're calling it level of service. So the level of service has been defined by them and put into AIM plan. So now when they keep modeling and they keep changing their model, this level of service is still retained what the business has signed up for or agreed to. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's what I wanted to talk actually next about, is basically managing your metadata, what you call in modeling language metadata. So you will see here the company code, GL account. I'm trying to type on it. I can't type anything on it. Okay. But here I can now I can see here, even when I edit, I can't type anything. But now I can say this machinery is not a balance sheet item, it's a P&L item, for example. It's not an asset, it's a cost. I mean, it's wrong, but I'm just saying. I can manage where that goes. Okay. So now why is this important? So now this is GL account mapping across the board, and it tells me that how I'm summarizing my GL account for my P&L reporting to be consistent across the business. Similarly, your product hierarchy can be managed similar way. Your basically assumptions of level of service can be managed in a similar way in a central place, A, and B, this access can be restricted to only certain people. Who sees this page depends on how we deploy this. Okay, so this can then be available to only director level people or whatever else. These are 5 people who have a right, or even one person has a right to do GL accounts, one person has a right to do product hierarchy, one person has a right to do level of service. COO has a right to do the level of service conversation, things like that. That means now once they set it up, it is for the whole business. No email needs to go out. Nobody has to go and find that Excel book. Nobody has to find the document of where this is. It is there, it is saved, and it is always going to be the same. So that, again, managing your metadata, and in Excel world, managing your lookup table to make sure that your lookup table is consistent across the whole business on an ongoing manner. Is this a full three statement balance sheet? Yes, three statement balance sheet, P&L balance sheet, cash flow can be done within AIM plan in this structure. Yes. That is the reason why I showed you this example to start with. My first example was P&L balance sheet cash flow. That is the reason why that was my first example. Because I know all my finance friends' first question always is going to be just P&L balance sheet cash flow. So yes, P&L balance sheet cash flow. Does that make sense? And so again, even those kind of assumptions of what is my assumptions around my debtors conversion to cash? What is my assumption around AP? Things like that. CapEx modeling. Okay. I mean, I don't, obviously this webinar is a bit short one. So there is project forecasting. So CapEx modeling, or what is my plan for CapEx for next 1 year, next 2 years, all of that. And therefore, what does that mean for my depreciation schedules? All of that can be set up. Okay. Implant, but only limitation, I will be very upfront, implant is for small to medium sized businesses. When you start going into really large businesses, then implant can solve a part of your departmental problem. Then you have to start going into much bigger CPM solutions to have bigger conversations. But yeah, if you're like south of basically 20 million or 15 million, then generally implant tends to be more than sufficient for your FP&A, budgeting, forecasting, modeling, P&L balance sheet, cash flow modeling, things like that. So not only does it enhance your reporting from your Excel books, 300 Excel books or 30 Excel books on SharePoint, to something much more structured, but also then gives you the ability to have your forecast in a much more structured manner as well. If anybody's again interested in a lot more detail around it, I'm happy to do, book a strategic call with me. We can go through a detailed session on how implant can help basically in that scenario. I am going to go back to my PowerPoint because I have to show you a few more slides before I completely open it up for questions. Come on. Yeah, go. So this is the case study. This is lawyers on demand. They used to take 7 to 8 days to make their board deck, manual formulas and updates. I showed them the number of KPIs they had wrong because formulas that are not updated. They wanted to automate as much as possible. We implemented basically a data warehouse for them, put a Power BI around it, and then made their basically board dashboards around that. The advantage what they got out of it is they got a lot more time to speak to stakeholders. Their commentary was a lot more efficient. They actually found missing invoices which they had forgotten to invoice the customers. Found opportunities where projects were coming up to a dead end and the end of life, so they were able to renew those well in advance before they came to end of life. And profitability of customer account level and product level was possible with basically Power BI instead of in Excel. I have got this long, basically recommendation from Paul Rochester where we deliver this value on my LinkedIn. You can please go right ahead and read it on there. And please reach out to him as well if you want to confirm this with him. He's become a good friend now. essentially. Okay. Now, because you have stayed till the end, the other benefits are the fact that if you do a proof of concept with us and that converts into into a project, we deliver 4 half-day trainings free of cost, which means not only we implement Power BI for you, we teach you the Power BI, and if you do implant, then it becomes 6 days of training. We teach you what we have done, how we have done it, means you can then expand the footprint within your business on your own without us. So then you become your business's first line support and first line experts in Power BI and implant. It can be one person, it can be 5 people in a room. We don't care. We most of these trainings are delivered online, so you even get recording, just like this one. You get a recording of whatever training we provide, so you can share within the team as much as you need. And for all our implementations which come as a part of this webinar, we provide 6 months of no quibble support. What that means is we brought your data from your data warehouses or your data sources into Power BI, done your dashboarding. If you've done implant, done your implant for you. Then we train you on it, and then for 6 months, they just, I want one more calculation. Oh, by the way, I don't like the line chart. I want a bar chart. Oh, I would like to look at this like that. Can we make 2 more pages? We will do all of that for you for 6 months without any additional cost to you. Okay, because we are genuinely very passionate about increasing the footprint of Power BI within the finance community, and actually finance community spending a lot more time in analyzing data rather than basically creating dashboards and creating PowerPoint presentations. So hence, we are happy to, again, I repeat myself, we'll do a free POC. If POC converts into basically a project, we'll give you free training and we'll give you 6 months of free support at no additional cost as a part of basically today's conversation. Let me know if anything else we can give you for free, if that helps you make a business case within your business. So thank you very much for your time. We are on the clock on at the hour. Happy to answer any more questions. Anybody who's been to my previous webinars, they know that I have gone over easily 20-30 minutes to answer questions. So please don't feel shy. Please ask questions away if you have any questions. Thank you, Dishant. Dishant has put my calendar link in the chat if you want to save that. Most of you, I think, are connected with me on LinkedIn as well. So on my LinkedIn as well, there is a booking option there on book an appointment with me. So you can book an appointment using this calendar link or come to my LinkedIn and book an appointment. Send me a message. We can have a conversation on LinkedIn. Any more questions? Anything? Tejas, what about this use case? Very excited to talk use cases. I always like when people ask challenging use cases. Anybody? Adrian? Asif? No? Are we all happy? No more questions? If you guys enjoyed the webinar and anything else, and if you have any particular comments or any feedback of Tejas, you could have done this better, please feel free to send me that on LinkedIn as well. I genuinely appreciate the feedback because that is the only way I can help the finance community better. So if you think that there is just anything you could have done better, please feel free to leave me comments either in the chat here or on LinkedIn. Drop me a message. Very happy to take your feedback because I will be doing one webinar at least every 2 months, if not every month, going forward. So it will only help me improve my webinars and my ability to help finance community more. Asif, ask the question, man. Don't worry. Unmute yourself.
No, I say I was just going through your webinar and it's really insightful. And I've also seen how Power BI can transform the organizations. I think one of the key use cases is that I've seen some people use Power BI more as more like Excel, creating their own dashboards, and finance has its own dashboard and sales analyst is preparing another dashboard, and then again we go back to numbers not time. So it's probably at some point you realize it's about the person and not the tool. But definitely, yeah, the flexibility that you have shown and how you handle the uniformity is definitely commendable versus Excel, subject to the fact that people use it the way it is intended to be used.
Asif, you make a very good point, and I tell you, good in the recording when we edit this, I will keep this part. The reality is, I was with Cinemedia. It is also a recommendation on my LinkedIn. When I joined, the director of FP&A had implemented Power BI 1 year back. The only person using that Power BI was him. Nobody else in the organization could understand that Power BI or use it for anything. Okay. Then he called us in. I deleted his entire. I was like, 3 days I spent with his Power BI. I assessed what he had done. I said, mate, Mark, you have made a fantastic Power BI, but nobody can use it except you because the way you have made it, nobody can use this. And I basically deleted his. And I'm not going to be lie. I deleted his entire Power BI and I built it ground up. When I left, everybody, their US, Canada CFOs, as well as their EMEA CFOs, everybody was using the same standard Power BI, which I had made for them, and were able to actually use it for as management packs. So management reviews, which they were doing in PowerPoint, completely stopped. They started opening directly Power BI, and everybody was just doing a review of their Power BI directly. Okay. Only pack they were then producing was for the board, because board of directors wanted a PDF from PowerPoint. So we had to continue that one. But otherwise, we stopped all other PowerPoint work in the business. Actually, people got 2 days of their month-end life back because they were not producing PowerPoint for management packs. Right? So yes, you are absolutely right. And that is respectfully, but that is why consultants like us exist. We will come in and we'll basically say, you know what, you're doing it wrong. Yes, the tool is great. What you're doing is great, but you're not using it correctly. That's essentially what it is. And it's more common than you think, right? It's genuinely more common than you think. At least 3 of my customers have gone in, I've looked at the Power BI, I've deleted that Power BI and started from scratch. And they're like, man, you are not nice. I'm like, yes, I'm so sorry, but I'm not. I'll do what is best for you, not what is
You know,
nice for you.
I'll just share a short story. We were implementing something on top of SAP, and then eventually, exactly due to this reason, I had to tell the senior management that we are just implementing a $1 million V transfer, because I will upload from Excel. You will get it in Power BI. You will again download Excel and do something on it. So
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, I've seen that as well. I've had basically people who have got Anaplan. You're talking about Power BI. Power BI is $10 a license. Anaplan is like a 6-digit license cost. And there also people are basically doing the work in Excel and then loading it into Anaplan. I'm like, oh my God, seriously? That means the user interface has not been set up correctly. I laugh in this conversation, talking about that people are not using it correctly. It's not just that. It's the person who's implemented has not implemented the user interface correctly. And that is the reason why when I started this presentation, I talked about the fact that I have worked in FP&A for 15 years in my life. So when we set up user interfaces, I am first thinking about the end user. Even if you go back to the recording and you look at how when I broke out the Power BI process, I said output first, then data sources, and then the modeling. Whereas what people end up doing is start with the modeling and then see what output they can produce. That's wrong. That's just the wrong way to go about it. You look at the output first, see how you can benefit the end users, and then take the back end and everything else. Kunwar, how do you set up aim plan? You call up Tejas Parekh. Sorry, I'm just being cheeky. We can have an offline conversation. Book a strategy call with me. I will introduce you to the implant people. They generally deliver implant via partners. We are an implant partner as well. So we help them deliver implant across UK. I think we are one of their major partners in the UK. So we will help you deliver implant. Even if you go to them directly, they will probably pass you to us. So might as well talk to us directly. We can help you get some discounts as well.
All right, thank
Any
you.
more for any more? No problem at all. I mean, I would love to have that conversation if you're really exploring that. And again, believe me, any of you, if you think you book a strategic call with me, I am a finance person. I am not a sales guy. I am not going to hound you every day or every 2 days of do you want a sale thing like that. I will have a brainstorming session with you. If you don't want to move ahead with anything, I will leave you alone. I promise. Because I am still not a very good salesperson. I'm a better finance and a finance person and an FP&A person than a salesperson. Anymore? Cool. Thank you so much, guys, for staying 10 minutes over. I really appreciate this. This has been a good conversation, some good stories sharing, and some good questions. I look forward to your feedback.